Well, hello there, ladies and gents. Great to see you again. Welcome back to Lessons by the Lake, the Oswego Private Wealth Show. Ryan Ruff here, your moderator. As always, I've got the managing director of Oswego Private Wealth in Mr. Bob Dritis joining me in just a moment. And we've got another guest joining us here on the show today. It's a return guest. We liked him so much, we had to have him back. And that's Carl Cox. Carl, the CEO of 40 Strategy. Our conversation last time with Carl surrounding a lot of the work that he does with business owners and entrepreneurs to dig deep into strategy. Well, a really interesting thing about strategy is it helps to have great books where you can really pull upon accurate numbers to drive that decision making moving forward and find success in your business and then therefore your life further down the road. So we wanted to have Carl back and dive into this idea of creating strategy and leveraging good strategy when you can couple it with with accurate data, accurate information alongside it. Really excited to be welcoming Carl back to the show. But first, let's go ahead and say hi to Bob. Bob, good to see you this morning. How you doing?
Ryan, I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, always good to be together, Bob. And yeah, we wanted to have Carl back on the show. I know you've got a great relationship with Carl. Before we bring him out here, bring me up to speed. Why'd you want to mainly have Carl back on today?
Well, Carl has been such a great partner to Oswego Private Wealth. We have so many mutual clients in common. We've been part of a mastermind group where we talk about situations and help one another sharpen. As iron sharpens iron, we're trying to sharpen each other in terms of how we do our practices and what 40 Strategy does. And we've talked for years about the issue of how important it is. The saying is you can't manage what you don't measure, and how we've talked about for years how Carl and I have both been in situations where I don't want to say the books are a mess, but let's just say they're not as accurate as they ought to be, and they're not giving us the information we need to measure that. And so Carl, who's a CPA by training and has just does a phenomenal job at 40 Strategy, has expanded his universe. And I should probably just stop right there and say, Carl, welcome to the show. Let's get into talking about why 40 Strategy, or why 40 accounting, more importantly.
Oh,
Welcome.
first of all, yeah, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure and honor to be on your show twice, and I'm excited to talk about what we've been doing at our new company, 40 Accounting.
Well, that's fantastic. So let's start right in and let's talk about the why. So you've been doing this strategy work for a long time now. I've been doing similar strategy work in wealth management, and we've both come up against a block. I don't want to. I don't want to. I'll bury the lead, and I'll just say, what did you find? Why did you just? Why? What decisions did you come to, Carl, to make you say this is a need for the marketplace? This is something that I have to create.
Well, it's been interesting, through my pure strategy career, I'd call it, with opening 40 Strategy. I very intentionally did not say I was a CPA. It was because, once again, when people think you're a CPA, they think, can you do my taxes? And so, because the why behind that is I wanted people, their mindset, to think about where could they be in the future and how we could help them get them there. But because of my background of having both strategy, operations, and accounting, I talk numbers. It's just kind of naturally how I go through things. And so through my career, it's hard to do strategy when you don't know if the numbers are accurate, if they're delayed, and how we're going to get to the outcomes. So over time, we've helped people, okay, you need help with the financials and get just kind of basic. And we were not advertising, we weren't marketing, we were just kind of, finding other people to help make sure that their books were accurate and going through that process. But then it was really interesting. I started having multiple conversations with people, and I talk for like 25 minutes about strategy, and like I talk 3 minutes about accounting, and they're like, "Can you help me do my books?" Or "Can you help me do my taxes?" It was like time and time again. It was like, well, how many times do I have to get hit over the head and recognize there's a need? Somebody said something really interesting to me a while back, and they said, when you're thinking about starting a business, a restaurant, where should you put your restaurant? And one of the ideas is, well, you should put your restaurant on the busiest corner of the street, right? The busiest intersection, that's where you should put your restaurant. That's one idea. And then somebody else said, well, maybe you should put your restaurant by a McDonald's because they do all the research and you just have to follow a McDonald's and put it right by there. But the best advice is open up your restaurant in front of a starving crowd. Then people will buy your food. Well, that's why we've opened 40 Accounting. We have a starving crowd. There is a CPAs have a significant shortage. It's been accelerated with baby boomers retiring and with COVID. People just decided to get out of the market. And then the other side, because of the shortage, it's natural. CPAs have been raising their prices. They've been literally firing clients who aren't willing to pay the additional pricing, and they have nowhere to go. And so 40 Accounting is filling that need. We are helping people with not only their financials, like basic bookkeeping, making sure their numbers are right. We're helping them to do financial analysis so they can understand more deeply. This is really helpful with strategy. And then third, we can do their taxes and even their individual taxes. And so we could do one, two, or three of those, or all three. We're partnering even with other accounting firms in some cases where they're like, hey, we don't do taxes or we don't do bookkeeping, but can you help us out? And so we really believe this isn't about competition. It's about helping people out. And we're there to help make sure we make a difference. And it's been really fun. We've been growing rapidly, and it's been so exciting to. We haven't. I mean, this is kind of like one of our first, honestly, advertisements. I mean, we haven't even really talked to you about that much, but we have a massive set of clients growing. We're hiring people, and we're just really excited about the future.
Well, that's amazing, and I agree with you. I mean, when we begin to work with our clients, the number one referral they're asking for, the introduction they're asking for, is for a CPA and or a bookkeeper. And so you have these three tranches, right? So you do bookkeeping, you do tax services, and you do CFO services. And do you bundle them or unbundle them? Are they a la carte? How do you engage with a client on this, Carl?
Yeah, they're we focus on what the client needs are. And so if they just need taxes, we'll just do their taxes. If they just need bookkeeping, we'll just do bookkeeping. If they need CFO work, we can do one, two, three, or do specialized for them. At the end of the day, we want to solve our clients' needs. And if they want to do it all in one place, it's fantastic, right? We'll be more than happy to take on all three of those chunks. But we recognize that some people already have somebody, working with a brand new client in California, and it's a larger client, and they're like, hey, we're backed up in our bookkeeping, like for 3 months, 4 months. Can you help us fix it? And we're like, sure, we can help you fix that. While in other cases, they're like, we have a good bookkeeper, but we don't have a higher level decision maker to help us do the analysis type work. So we can help them out with that. Then other people are like, I got fired from my CPA. I'm paying way too much for my taxes. And is there a better way? And there is. We have built this firm to be. We're not trying to be the lowest cost, just to clarify, but we're value priced. We understand what the real costs are. We're a remote business, so to speak. We can still meet with people, but we don't have a massive building that we have to pay and cover our costs. We don't have $500,000 partners that we have to pay for their thing. We're not in New York City. And so as a result of that, we can provide much cheaper rates than the larger firms. And they appreciate that, right? Because after the strategy's done, honestly, the compliance is pretty consistent. But on top of that, we do something that most firms don't do, even the biggest firms. We'll meet with our clients quarterly. So, because we want, decisions should be made along the way. That's one of Bob, you recognize that, especially in wealth planning. This is the time right now in December where you can save significantly on your taxes if you make the right decisions. And if you don't know those decisions and where your estimated taxes should be, you could make a significant mistake. And so it's great to be able to work with people ahead of time. So we're actually being strategic and not just working after the fact. The fact is, taxes after the year is already done. It's you can't be really too creative about the past. But you can make better decisions about the future if you make the right decisions. The tax kit.
Wow, you've said so many things there, Carl, that really resonate with me, because information for the sake of information means nothing. right? It means nothing. It's like information is what gives you the ability to make decisions, and then those decisions need to be executed. So I would think that this marriage of 40 accounting and 40 strategy together, particularly when you're on the team that's in there uncovering the information on which we make decisions in order to do the execution, just makes 40 strategy all that much more powerful for your clients.
Yeah, it really has been. It's been a really it's been honestly surprising. It's interesting. The other day I was totally talking about the accounting side, and somebody said, "Can you help me with strategy?" You know, so it goes both ways. With companies and organizations, and you never know which part of those four pieces are broken. But at the end of the day, 90% of a business owner's wealth is tied up in their business. And if you don't have a good strategy, if you don't have a good tax plan, and if you don't know your numbers, it's going to be hard to get that money out. And so our goal is to ultimately to increase the overall wealth for our owners, just like you are, Bob, right? We have a a shared goal here is we're trying to maximize the wealth for our owners, not only in the business but outside the business when they're deciding whatever they're deciding their exit is, whether it's um, creating an oil well where they're going to hire a management team to grow their business and to manage it from that perspective, or they're planning to sell it someday. We want to work in combination and have the best plan for them, right? People have different, you and I both know people have different risk tolerances. And sometimes other issues get in the way. You can have a health issue, and all of a sudden that health issue is driving decisions. When that happens and takes place, we have to be willing to be thoughtful and think ahead. And so on the strategy side, we do a lot of like you do, Bob, we do a lot of risk assessment to understand what are the things that's impeding growth and impeding the value. And then we have the accounting side to go, well, can we pay for that? Can we get a return on that? Right. It's one of my biggest challenges and why I got into strategy in the first place is I was frustrated because people weren't successful with it. And so that's fun. But what's even more fun is to show there's a return on investment. We guarantee a lot of our clients on the strategy side, if we can't get you a return on investment, we'll pay you back. Like that's how much we believe in it. Because we not only have a strategy side, we have an action side to get it done. Like it's fun to like go on a whiteboard and get together and have a nice dinner and prepare for the future and plan and have a great vision. But a vision is useless if you don't get it done. And so we get it done and we can measure it now well with 40 accounting. That's been the part. We have a team of people that we can scale with and grow with. And that's been that wasn't an overnight thing, Bob. I think you and I have talked about in the past. We really very intentionally, before we opened it up officially 40 accounting, we've been testing this and seeing how it work and make sure we're doing the right things, because we don't want to just open a business that we can't serve people. We want to serve and scale. And so we've developed and put the infrastructure in place so we could do that.
Yeah, and there are times I think, Carl, thank you for that, by the way. There are times I think that the idea of, Eric and I are both certified exit planners, and exit planning, succession planning is such a huge part of what how we present ourselves, how we market ourselves, how we come in on the front end. But we come in with the three legs of the stool for succession planning, and we want to do a business assessment. We also want to do a business owner's readiness to leave the business. And then those three legs of the stool are really business planning, personal financial planning, and life planning. Are you ready to retire? Or are you going to be one of those business owners who the 75% of business owners who regret that they sold their business, not because of the money they got for the business, but because they don't have a plan for the rest of what they do. So when we come in and we're talking about those three legs of the stool, it's your work, Carl, in the business assessment and how to grow that business. So we go through this discovery phase, and then we have actionable ideas that we want to execute on. And ultimately, you and I both know this to be true. So many times we have a frustrated business owners who goes, I'm ready, I'm done, it's time to sell. And as we go through the succession plan, what we discover is they're reinvigorated. And now we're coming through a 1 or 2 year, 3 year cycle, and we're saying, no, the decision to make, are we going to exit or are we going to grow? And as often as not, it's no, no, this is fun again. Let's grow. Let's keep growing, but we want to be succession ready because, as you said, you don't know when you're going to be hit by that proverbial bus or a health crisis comes along. So everybody should be succession ready. But this process really, what I do, what you do at 40 Strategy, and the numbers and the clarity we get from 40 Accounting is we have a real opportunity to help that business owner and that family business that um, make those decisions and say, no, no, it's grow time. We're having fun again. Let's make this happen.
It is exciting when you can get we recently worked with a company where for 5 years they didn't have any growth. And it was just kind of I don't know, kind of like walking around a cemetery. I mean, it was just, it was like I see dead people walking, I mean, it was just kind of sad, right? Because they had no hope and they just kind of kept on trying things and nothing was working. We made changes. The company doubled in size, completely changed the culture, and they now have a great exit opportunity that happened as a result of that, and all the stakeholders, the owners, the shareholders are going to get a far better return that they would have had. But what's interesting is the company's fun to work at again. Like it's a place where people are excited to be there. And you're right, it is interesting. And the other side, Bob, which I really appreciate you saying, you have 75% regret, and it's because they don't have that plan of what's next. I talked with a multi-time PE operator, and he was like, Carl, I've got, he was bragging about all of his homes and his, so you were like managing his wealth, Bob, because he had a lot of wealth, and so he was talking about all these different things that he had, but then he said, Carl, if I see another luxury pool, I'm going to drown myself in it. He was like, he wanted to get back in the game. He enjoyed the game of business, right? And so it's I think that's what's so important is to have the big picture in mind, but to know what it takes. So I was working with a couple of entrepreneurs recently, and part of what was holding them back, honestly, is they didn't understand how to set up the business organization, like the entity. They didn't understand how the cash flow was going to work through it. And those things were holding themselves back from creating really cool products and services. And so what's fun is when we can kind of unlock that trapped, they're like trapped, right? And we could just give them a little bit of advice and say, hey, it's really not that hard to create an LLC. It's really not that hard to create an S corporation. And let's find a way to start moving forward because you have a great idea, a great concept, and we can get it done for you much more cost effectively. You don't have to spend $50,000 with with a LA or a New York firm to help get this done.
Carl, I got an interesting kind of flip side that I want to have you take a look at here because I totally understand how that process of going through this with them, the strategy married with the accounting can, like Bob said, reinvigorate interest back in the business to, yeah, pursue new opportunities and avenues. But let's go back to that exit planning side of things where let's say yes, that business owner really is looking forward to, hanging up the hat, moving on to that final act of life and enjoying the life of significance that Bob and I talk about a bunch on this show. Do you find that in some of the, 40 accounting work that maybe some of the business owners you guys have worked with in the past, or they came to you just, newly through 40 accounting, maybe thought that their books had them positioned to enter exit planning a little sooner than they thought. And it's a little bit of a reality or a gut check for them to say, hey, hold on, we've got a few things that actually have to happen first.
It's more common than not,
Mhm.
frankly, Ryan. The reality is, and there's no shame to it. Most people aren't accountants, right? They're not. They're business owners, and their value of their wealth is how much is in their business checking account. right? That's how they view the success of their business. How much money is in my business checking account and how much money can I pull out each year? But what they're not thinking about is, what does somebody else value that business at? Right. And have they thought through that from that perspective? Like, as an example, this is going to sound sacrilegious. Forgive me, folks, for saying what I'm about to say right now, but I'm just going to say it. Okay. When somebody pulls out their earnings every single year and they're intentionally not trying to show any taxable income. So basically, the company is making no money by definition. And then they're like, I want to sell it now. Well, what's the first thing they look at? They look at EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. That company is making no money. What is it worth? Right. And so part of the plan is understanding we actually have to show a company that's actually making money and, God forbid, paying some taxes from time to time. And now there's, once again, there's ways to help minimize that and do things, but what people want to see is something that's creating value, because they're ultimately buying the future cash flows of that company. And they want to see that it's actually bringing cash flows. Now, don't get me wrong. If an owner's pulling out $1 million a year and they're like, hey, this is the value of the company, that's probably going to show value, right? They're going to find a way to help create value around that. But often, Ryan, you're right. They're not looking at it from the way of how a broker or a buyer is looking at it. They're not looking away from how, if they're big enough, how a private equity firm looks at it. And understanding that up front and planning ahead. Like, one of the biggest challenges is people say, well, I'm getting ready to sell. I'm just going to hire a broker, or I'm going to hire an investment banker. The problem is they're going to look at you like how you are today. And no matter how much they're going to sell you, it's like, it's sort of like if we show up to something and if we're wearing a suit versus we're wearing sweatpants, right? We're going to have a different view of their success. Well, the same thing is with a business. If your business doesn't look pretty going into it, your investment broker and bankers they're going to be biased towards how much value they're going to sell your business. So having a clean set of financials, showing that there's profits before you even contact them. So meaning, if we're really thinking ahead and we're like not planning to sell next year, if we have like a 3 to 5 year time horizon, we can fix all those things ahead of time, have a brilliant looking business where it's not like putting lipstick in a pig, it's putting lipstick in a model, right? This is a beautiful company that we want to buy. And so having that planning, thinking up front, could be so much more powerful. Matter of fact, there's a study we've done where by having, keep in mind, right size a company, by putting in a CFO, right? So our goal is to kind of be an interim CFO for a company. The value of creating financial reporting, timely financial reporting, internal controls can increase the business value sometimes $500,000 to $1 million.
Wow.
Right. So people are like, well, I can't afford a CFO. Well, would you be willing to invest $50,000 a year to get another $500,000? I would. That's a good return on money.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying there, Carl, because you're right. The value of the business is what a willing buyer is willing to pay for it, not what the owner believes that business is worth. And some people will refer to it as there's the tax number and then there's a real number, right? But what we like to look at, and let's say that owner's taking $1 million out as a salary, but a CEO in that industry would be earning $300,000. And let's say that they're also writing off everything from vehicles to the kitchen sink within that business, where a company wouldn't necessarily do that if it wasn't family owned or just for the benefit of the owner. We like to come in, and I know you do, and you come in and say, well, there's EBITDA, but then there's a recast EBITDA on the true financials of this business, but that takes time. There needs to be a runway. You don't do it with a letter of intent in place, and now you're talking to a willing buyer, and you're saying, oh, no, let us give you another set of books. No, you fix those things over time, and that's such a great value I see for 40 accounting combined with 40 strategy.
Yeah. And Bob, something else that's important too is, can that business run without you? And, it's part of the process behind it. It's not uncommon for you to run into, and the CEO is not only the chief operator, but they're the chief seller and they're the chief CFO, right? And the problem with that is the value is them, right? And when we can actually create things that, I mean, once again, let's just imagine, think of having a business where it's running effectively on its own, and you could have confidence, see what the numbers are from your yacht, or maybe we could be a little bit more practical, maybe just in a timeshare in Italy, right? And you're getting to view this, but you're seeing that your business is so successful because you've actually built a team to help get it there. So then you could really maximize, because Bob and I, sad truth is 50% of deals fall through, even when they're at the final stage. And so to having an option of still staying in business because you built it to be like an oil well, as opposed to, I need to sell this right now. Well, what does that mean? If you get this, we all get this. If you need to sell it, you're going to sell it lower than the value, right? Because you're desperate. And that's why, once again, building a company that has options and flexibility, and the numbers, creates so much more value.
Makes so much sense. I love it. Well, Carl, thank you so much. Any parting thoughts you have for us on the show? I think we've covered a ton of information, but any parting thoughts before we sign off? And I thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Yeah, Bob. Hey, thank you once again, and I appreciate it. I guess I'll leave it out there from those who may be considering out there of, hey, if you have a CPA who hasn't been answering the phone for you, and you don't know where your books are at, you're frustrated because you want better contact, more information. 40 Accounting is here to help support you, and so if you're interested in learning more. You could go to our website at 40accounting.com. We have it combined within our website, 40 Strategy as well. We have an ability to be able to connect and go with us. I'll give you my direct email. If you're interested in that, it's Carl J. Cox at 40strategy.com. And we also have an email, carljcox at 40accounting.com. Either way, we'll be happy to get back to you and service and help whatever the needs there are, whether they're, once again, bookkeeping, financial reporting, or taxes. We're here to help.
Yeah, Carl, thank you. And I think I'd be remiss. We covered this in the last show, but not today. The name 40 Strategy, the name 40 Accounting. What's the genesis? Where did it come from? And what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so the 40 strategy side came behind it was it's really fascinating. I saw data before I started the company, and it was like only about 2% of owners, managers spend that amount of time on strategy. So that's about equivalent to 40 hours per year. And so that's where the name. And so basically the concept is hire us, 40 Strategy, to support you 40 hours a year to not only design your plan to help keep you accountable, get it done. 40 Accounting is kind of similar. It's a lot of people don't focus their time on their books. And so we're here to help provide that part around it. Now there's a deeper side, Bob, that we don't, going under the cover a little bit. The 40, there's a lot of historical context in the number 40, and the reality is it's not usually an overnight success for a company or for a business owner to get to their outcome. A lot of times when somebody finally makes it to the press, it's because of 10 years of hard work. And so that's the other part of the 40 is that, hey, we recognize that it is people's babies. It's their identity, right? When they've built a business, and whatever their desired outcome is, we want to help make sure they're maximizing it, understanding their strategy, understanding their wealth, and understanding the ability to track it to get there. And so that's, once again, why we love partnering with you, Bob, because we have alignment. We're there and being a team of people that could really help make sure our clients are getting to their maximum outcome.
Well, that's exactly right. Thanks, Carl. And 2% of your time is spent on strategy. Make it a valuable 2% of your time, your 40 hours. And of course, yeah, and after 10 years, you're an overnight success. After 40, excruciating, painful, hard work for 40 quarters. you're an overnight success in 10 years.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Bob, a lot of the conversation today, it intersected between, having great books to set you up for that success down the road in terms of the exit planning process, which I know you and we have a ton of conversations about on this show. For anybody out there that, we may have piqued their interest surrounding exit planning conversations and your team's work at Oswego Private Wealth, what's the best way somebody can reach out to you guys?
Yeah, honestly, come to our website, oswegoprivatewealth.com or opwm.com. Either address will get you there. And whether you start speaking with Carl at 40 Strategy or 40 Accounting, or you begin speaking with us, I'm sure we'll find a triumvirate of an ability to engage one another in the planning that we all do.
Fantastic. Well, Carl and Bob, appreciate you both. And look, folks, we're going to take a final moment here, as we always do, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two, I know I did, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whichever platform you checked us out on today so that you don't miss out on any future content where Bob and I sit down and dive into different wealth management topics, or also bring on some great professionals from his network. Of course, Carl J. Cox joining us today from 40 Strategy and 40 Accounting. Really great stuff from Carl today. We always appreciate having him on board. But look, for Carl and Bob, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long now, but we appreciate you stopping by and being with us today on Lessons by the Lake.